regularly?
You are live and, I will be here afternoons and I'm gonna swap in and out with Jillian here now. I think that's how you say her last name.
Okay.
She, is a committee assistant who works in Senate GovOps. So you'll be in good hands. She also is a farmer. So you'll be in good hands. Without Sidonia. Not the same hands. Without Sidonia.
Chairman, this is straw poll.
Yeah, so we want to take a straw poll on, I'm going to see if I can identify on Friday. If you look on your committee page, and we can have Megan also find this and then put it on today's page. But on Friday, there is draft 4.2 of the amendment that Representative Branning brought to us in F60. It adds a line, a sentence, basically. It technically, I guess, covers 2.5 lines. But asking or requiring, because it does use shall, that applicants for an award include a list of any grants or loans that are either farm related or forest related that they've received from the state in the past 5 years. And if anybody wants to look at that again, it's on our committee page on Friday, and we're going to post it to today.
I'm gonna already post right now. Draft 4.2 is it?
Draft 4.2, yeah, it's a single page. So, Representative O'Brien.
We have Secretary Evans coming in.
Secretary Tebbets is coming in on another matter, yes.
Oh, no,
He's on the agenda.
Yes, he's coming at 1:30.
On the radio this morning, they said the Agency of Ag and USDA just a whole slip
Excellent.
of, what's it? Enough.
So that's probably the money that we've been hearing about since the beginning of the session. That was gonna go to 8 states and then 7.
I don't think it was that. This was
Yeah.
for like food, like sort of more like what we heard with like Myers Produce. It sounded like it was sort of food resiliency side of things, like, and I'd never even heard of this grant.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so that's something we should ask him.
Working land ban or
I was
something.
gonna say the working lands grant.
That
was
came
just
up like,
awarded,
that
yeah.
like came up like 2 days ago. This was like a whole different category I'd never even heard of.
Well,
Resilient food system,
Yeah.
infrastructure and equipment.
You ever heard of that?
if I've heard of it, I've forgotten it. Well, we can certainly ask him, and
Yeah.
we should ask him, yeah, particularly if there's a federal element to it, or if federal funding supports it. In any case, as far as this amendment goes to S60, which, by the way, reminder, we've already voted it S60 out, it's an appropriation, so this would be an amendment that comes up on the floor. Could I have a motion to a straw poll in support of this amendment?
I'm gonna take a straw poll on this S60 amendment.
Right? I guess we should have a second.
Who's offering this?
Representative Branning.
I will second.
Okay. Is there any other conversation or discussion? Representative Burt.
Amendment due, if I haven't personally seen that. Did Michael O'Grady revise the amendment
Yes.
from?
So I'll read you the sentence.
Okay.
Yeah, read everyone the sentence. So the new language says, shall include a list of any state grants or loans received for the purposes of the farm or forestry operation business in the past 5 years. To include amount, source, and purposes. Anything else?
I have a real issue with that amendment because I really don't think that's pertinent at all to why somebody would need an assistance from a disaster. But if it has to be there to appease commerce and whatnot, I will acquiesce. That's my $5 word of the day.
Nice.
Not sure what it means, but I think it's in context.
This is not, so I'll just say, first of all, you should vote however you feel comfortable voting anytime. And this is not, I'll just want to say it's not an amendment offered by the Commerce Committee. It's somebody who is, on the Commerce Committee. And which is typically when amendments are offered, they are not offered by other committees. But the entire committee could have signed on and they haven't in this
Was
case.
she the only one?
Yeah.
I think she talked about it with other people on the committee, but it's her amendment.
Originally, I heard they wanted an amendment saying that if you receive monies from Act 60, you could receive monies from VITA, low interest disaster loan monies. And I said to somebody, I said, you have a $300,000 disaster and we're only have $1 million, you get 5%, that's $50,000. You're nowhere near your 50% of your covering your disaster. Why couldn't you apply for low interest VITA loans? And they said, well, it's a limited supply of money. And I said, understood, but we all have pain. So I guess they changed it
A
because
limited supply of money, yes, and it's certainly true that none of the programs are going to be able to cover the certainly the size of loss that we saw a couple summers ago.
It doesn't prohibit you from applying, say,
No.
Vita does it. And
Yeah.
it just is a declaration that I have received
Yes, yeah,
this.
have actually received, not applied even, yeah. Okay, all right, well, yes, thank you for sharing all of those concerns. That we should air these, but Rep. Lipsky, if you want to just call the roll then on this.
But I'm calling the roll on amendment draft 4.2 for an act relating to establishing farm security fund. Rep. Boslin,
Yes.
Rep. Burt,
Yes.
Rep. Lipsky, yes. Rep. Morgan,
No.
Rep. Nelson,
no.
Rep. O'Brien,
Yes.
Rep. Supernaut,
Yes.
Rep. Durfee.
Yes,
Okay, so the straw poll is 6-2-0.
all right, thank you very much.
And I'm 100% in favor of S60. Just, yeah,
Our French fire.
Okay, thank you, everybody. I want to move things along because we got off to a late start. I did check with the agency. Anson, Secretary Pevitz is joining us on Zoom, or we're expecting him on Zoom. And
Nicole.
okay, I let Nicole know also that we were going to be starting a little bit late, so we can let them in, yeah. And also checked with them to see how much information they had to share, and they thought it was 10 or 15 minutes worth of information. So I figured let's go ahead and do it now. It won't throw us off schedule. Hey, Nicole.
Hello, how are you?
I think we're all pretty well. How are you?
I'm good. Just a forewarning, I'm not sure if Secretary Tebbets is having the same technical issues that Amy Mercer's having, but the Zoom is spinning for them. So I'm solo for a moment. I'm hoping that they can get it to work.
Okay. Should we wait until we know whether they can join, or do you want to get started?
So do you mind giving me 1 minute to double check? And if not, I can just start the testimony.
Sure, that's fine.
Thank you. 1 moment.
Chairman, it's going to be the reporter of S.
So, yeah.
6, 8,
6,
6, 2.
2, 0.
You can explain all that was.
Okay,
I'm not gonna get up and make some grandiose statement.
that's okay. Do I need this?
You don't necessarily need it, but if you're going to say on the amendment,
Amendment.
Yeah.
if you report it,
Yeah,
Yeah,
it just gives you a record.
yeah,
straw.
So you can keep it here or you can memorize that. Or I can
I'll take
correct
I'll
you
take
from the floor.
I'd like to do that, I heard. Take a picture.
While we're waiting, I'm gonna pick a radish soon out of my garden.
Wow.
While we're waiting, can you tell us about Panton? Is that okay? Sure, yeah.
Yeah, Panton was, very, very good. And I went Saturday, then I went back again yesterday.
Way.
Yeah, that's where the Bossevelts are farming. And, they're Friday afternoon, don't think you were here, we heard from Heather Darby and Joshua Faulkner on the studies they're doing with drainage tile.
No. So we're gonna huddle around a single computer if you don't mind.
Okay.
I'm gonna give Secretary Tebbetts the hot seat here.
Good afternoon. How is everybody?
Super.
Secretary Tebbetts, are you back from, you were out
I'm
on the
in
road this
between,
morning?
and I just came from Stowe, and I've landed, and then I've got a 2:00, so I'm in between, but I'm glad to be with you.
Well, we're glad to have you. And I had spoken with Nicole just to make sure that we weren't going to be cutting you off. So it sounds like we don't have an hour's, you don't have an hour's worth of testimony or information to share. So I think it should work well.
Great. So, well, good afternoon. For the record, Anson Tebbetts, Secretary of Agriculture, Food and Markets. I'm alongside Amy Mercer of the agency's financial director is with me, as long as Nicole Dubuque, our Director of Operations. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you today about federal funding and the potential impacts on our agency should that funding change or be reduced. I wanted to start maybe just with a brief overview of our proposed budget, which you guys know already, but I wanted to just highlight, our proposed budget is about $60 million. 21% comes from general funds, state dollars, 35% from special funds, and about 40% of our budget at the Agency of Ag is federal funds, and the remaining 4% made up of interdepartmental transfers. At present, we find ourselves in a bit of a holding pattern in a few areas. There was some initial uncertainty during the first weeks of the new federal administration. Many of our programs that rely on USDA or federal government funding were temporarily paused for review. Fortunately, those programs, such as the Northeast Dairy Business Innovation Center and others, are back, and particularly relating to farm infrastructure investments. They have resumed, and they are operating normally. Federal support also plays a crucial role in consumer protection at the agency. For instance, our meat inspection program operates through a cooperative agreement with the federal government. While this program is often a moving target, we have not seen any disruptions as of today. However, there are a few areas that we are beginning to feel a little bit of pressure. The FDA has informed Vermont that our produce safety programs are facing cuts, potentially as much as 40%. This is a nationwide issue, not limited to Vermont. And to be fair, some of these discussions began prior to the new administration. We're still evaluating what these cuts might mean for Vermont farmers, and there is a strong lobbying effort in Washington to reconsider this approach. We're also hearing that there is some restructuring going on at USDA and FDA. and under FDA, we may see some changes coming down, and they may, over time, lots of discussions in Washington about turning some of those responsibilities over to the states. But we're monitoring that carefully, and of course, following the funding if we are going to take over some of those programs that FDA currently is doing. One program that was particularly disappointing to us to see, and was the Local Food Purchase Assistance, or LFPA. You have taken some testimony on this. These programs, which ran from 2022 to 2025, helped both Vermont farmers and families in need. We were anticipating continued support through the 25 year with about $1.7 million in additional funding. Unfortunately, USDA terminated our cooperative agreement for those funds on March 7th. So that went away on March 7th of this year. And lastly, I'd have to note that Congress has yet to pass a farm bill, which remains a major wild card. The farm bill is a critical 5-year roadmap for federal ag policy and funding. When it passes, it could bring additional changes to our budget and programming. And also keep in mind that I'm only strictly talking about our state programs. There are many other partners in Vermont, from conservation groups to economic development initiatives, who are facing uncertainty due to federal program shifts, particularly within USDA Rural Development, and the Farm Service Agency as well. So those are, we understand there will be an announcement next week of federal restructuring of USDA. We've seen some of the headlines with USDA with about 15,000 employees either taking the buyout programs or losing their jobs. So we don't know what that impact will have on Vermont, but we do anticipate there will be some changes in employment related to USDA, particularly under NRCS, which we have a strong partnership with our conservation programs. So that's kind of a snapshot of where we are. More in the coming days and weeks, but right now, kind of in a holding pattern, waiting to see. The budget from the president was unveiled this week, and we're taking a look at that and how that may impact our programs here. So with that, I'm happy to take any questions you might have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Secretary Tebbetts. You noted that you're just speaking about state programs and funding that comes into the state, but that there's other federal funding that goes directly to other partners. Are you aware, or would you be aware of any significant changes or disruptions to, other than staffing, to funding that goes out as grants?
I think that's to be determined. I think we are likely going to see some changes, and that could be more money coming to the states and having us manage it as well. So it could go both ways. I think it's probably too early to tell. The president has proposed his budget. Now Congress needs to react to that. The part where the funding comes in play is most people in Washington are saying they're unlikely that they're going to get a farm bill done this year, but they may do bits and pieces through the appropriations process along the way that could help with that funding, or at least give us a signal where they're going with that. One area that I think we all need to keep focused on is making sure that the Northeast Dairy Business Innovation Center is reauthorized. I mean, we do have funding for another couple of years, but under the Farm Bill, it needs to be reauthorized, and it needs to be funded going down the road. So that's one that, we really want to continue to advocate for here in the Northeast. And it's not just us, there are 4 others around the country that have centers as well.
Representative Nelson.
Thank you. Secretary Tebbetts, it seems to me that if their lack of getting things done on the Farm Bill, I guess more stuff needs to happen in the I-states to get them excited about doing their due diligence and taking care of things. water quality, a lion's share of our water quality initiatives come through the Farm Bill, as you're aware. I have a lot of concern for their lack of moving ahead with a Farm Bill. And this isn't the first year that it's happened. It's happened numerous times throughout my career.
Yeah, and I think that's one we need to keep our eye on, particularly the conservation programs. There are a lot of cost share programs, and we're asking our farmers to put some significant infrastructure in. And if you've capped out on that 5-year Farm Bill plan, you're kind of left in limbo. I do anticipate probably not having as many USDA NRCS employees in Vermont. I think that's probably just realistic, and there may be some funding available, but we'll be struck with maybe some folks not around to help manage that funding. So we're engaged with USDA NRCS about creative ways that we can keep this momentum going with our water quality goals and objectives. So I think over the next 3 or 4 months, I think by fall we'll probably have a good indication of where the funding is going and where all the employees are going to be in the state.
Representative O'Brien.
Secretary, this morning on WDEV, there was mention of something called with the agency and the USDA, the Resilient Food Systems Infrastructure and Equipment Only Grants. And that was a new phrase to me. I don't know if we know it from a different title, but it was just good to hear that grants were being given and it was federal dollars. And if you could speak to that, it'd be great.
Yeah, this was a priority for us, and we were a bit nervous because this did start in the previous administration. Some of the vetting and the programming and the dollars came sort of, I guess last year, we could say last year it began. So Vermont was allotted a certain amount of funding for essentially infrastructure, both for the food system and private businesses. For example, we had a couple of sugar makers that qualified for reverse osmosis equipment, evaporators, et cetera. And that was about $3 million. So that was put on pause for a while, and we were really nervous it was going to be swept away, but it did survive. And we announced those grants yesterday, but all centered around infrastructure and getting more local food to our consumers and helping our small businesses.
Were those all federal dollars or was it a match?
Nope, those were all federal dollars. You folks remember you put together a state program a couple of years ago that we helped with produce, maple, and meat. So it's similar. It was a similar program to that, but it was USDA dollars that came to us, and each state was allotted a certain amount based on its farm economy and its consumer base as well. So some states got 10 million with a bigger population, and some states in Vermont did quite well. It was a little over $3 million. But it's all related to infrastructure improvements.
One more follow-up. What have you heard about, what is it, the Northeast and Hawaii and Alaska, those flood resilience grants?
Yeah, so essentially we're back to square one with that. We learned last week that the USDA wanted us to essentially reapply for those funds. These are disaster relief funds. It was a block grant in December. Congress and the president agreed to. So all of New England, Alaska, and Hawaii received in total $220 million. And then we worked with FSA and saying these were our totals. This is how much damage we thought happened to our farmers and producers in 23 and 24. So we were going down that path. We thought we were getting pretty close to them giving us a dollar figure, whether it was going to be 10 million, 5 million, 20 million, based on some of the loss. But we learned last week that they want us to resubmit. So we have asked them, and it seems to be a lot of confusion, what's eligible and not eligible. for this program. So we are trying to get an answer out of the Farm Services Agency out of Washington. What would be eligible and would not be eligible? I think they're quite concerned about farmers maybe double dipping and taking advantage of a program and then being reimbursed again for it. So essentially, we're back to square one. We have some more meetings with them. We're meeting with them weekly, and we hope to have this, buttoned up and figured out over the next few weeks.
Representative Balzan and I attended a conference 4 weeks ago now, maybe, and I think we may have discussed it with you, Anson. We heard from at the conference your counterpart in New Hampshire, and he was excited at the time that this was imminent, as you have been, and as we all have been for the past 4 months or so. So that's very discouraging.
Yeah, we were surprised, to say the least, that essentially we've got to go back and we still don't. I don't think it's really clear to us what they want us to submit. So we've asked them to give us a list of what possibly can't be covered, and so hopefully we'll get some answers. We're having weekly meetings with them, and we're meeting as a New England as a region as well. So my counterparts are on the calls as well. So and keep in mind, some of those states have not had any recovery programs. We were fortunate in Vermont to have either some private funds or the state program to help with relief. And some of those states have not seen any, and they've had significant weather events as well.
Did you or did your colleagues have other information you wanted to present?
No, I think that's it. And, I think, the new federal budget begins on October 1, and we're just starting to get details of what may be in the USDA budget and how it might relate to Vermont. But, we're going to keep focused on, we got to keep our eye on the meat inspection program, what that means, the produce safety program, the inspections there, and then our economic development programs. Are they, new administration, are they going to roll out some new programs for the states to take part in? I do keep hearing the word partners from USDA. I don't know what that means. Does that mean, partners with the state? Does that mean partners with some of our colleagues in the nonprofit world that are supporting our farmers? But I think that's to come. But I think maybe some clarity will come. Probably a little bit more will come next week, where the restructuring will be announced by USDA.
I believe that you also had an opportunity to present the sort of high-level information that you shared with us to the House Appropriations Committee a couple of weeks back. Or if you haven't, that you will. I know they're trying to just check in with all agencies and parts of government, just to better understand if what looks like or feels like it might be at risk, and if funding were cut, federal funding were cut, where would the state absolutely need to think about trying to step in and fill some of that gap.
Well, and I think we want to, protect our core programs. So we want to make sure that, we have funding to make sure that, we've made some progress in our local meat world. We want to make sure that we're able to get in those plants and inspect them, because if we can't inspect them, or the feds can't inspect them, then that slows down the whole process. They can't process that day. So we want to make sure that we keep focused on our core programs, and that goes for produce safety as well. Over the last decade, the United States has made a lot of progress in the produce world, essentially coming out of some of the food scares that occurred in some of the larger states related to greens and so forth. So they did stand up a program for that. But FDA is undergoing some changes. So I think all the core programs and those conservation programs that our farmers rely on to improve our water quality, we're going to have to keep an eye on those. And the economic development ones, we were really pleased with the local food one because that did two things. One, it got a, core business for our farmers and our farmers, grew crops for that and they could rely on that. And then it was getting to places of need, whether it was schools, whether it was food banks, whether it's food shelves, or on the consumer's shelves as well. So those core programs, I think we need to make sure that they continue to have those cooperative agreements that we have with them that we've had for decades here at the agency in Vermont.
All right, Representative O'Brien.
Just one more quick one, Secretary. I just wondered, given we've got Vermont Food Bank and Hunger Free Vermont here, are agencies of ag sort of kept in the loop on the farm bill as far as, so much of it is SNAP benefits and other food assistance programs? I just wondered if you've heard anything about that.
Yeah, and I think that's the SNAP benefits go through the farm bill, and I think that is probably one of the biggest stumbling blocks trying to figure out that, because there is an audience in Washington that wants to reduce those benefits to help with the budget reductions. And some of the members of the House Ag and Senate committees come from urban areas, so they benefit from those. But a tremendous amount of food insecurity goes through the USDA budget. So those are the big battles, and whether they're going to come in a farm bill. But my understanding in the appropriation process, no policy can go through the budget process. So it's strictly going to be a budget decision when they're making, decisions down in Washington. So these big policy decisions that help with the blueprint for farming, for example, the reauthorization of the Northeast Dairy Business Innovation Center, may not come through the budget process that they're thinking about doing in, stages throughout the year. We need a farm bill or we need a separate policy decision on that. So I think there's a lot of confusion, and most people are really confident that we will not have a farm bill this year, and that would be, I think, about 2 years behind schedule.
Thank you.
All right, well, thanks for joining us.
Well, thank you. And thanks
Sorry
for,
about the delay, and we'll let you get on to your next meeting.
thank you. Thanks for the accommodation. Appreciate it. And best of luck down the stretch. We're here to help. Thank you.
All right,